Within a few hours, Narendra Modi will be sworn in as the Prime Minister of India. Once again, this is going to be his second innings as the Prime Minister of the country. And in no time, we will know what the new Modi team looks like. Essentially, who will be in his Council of Ministers, and most importantly, who will be the top four among them. Well, really the biggest criticism Prime Minister Modi got in his first term, or we can say the Prime Minister designate for now, he's not yet sworn in, got in his first term as the Prime Minister, was that there was a very, very weak cabinet in many senses. Talent deficit was something that the BJP had to grapple with. Weak bench strength was a criticism. So the question that we are asking today and what we are looking at today is whether this is going to be the BJP's big challenge going ahead, and has this been a big consideration when the party, particularly Narendra Modi and party president Amit Shah, were discussing whom to bring into the cabinet? Well, there are some of the parameters that we can begin by looking at and talk about what really has gone into the thinking as far as this cabinet is concerned. And in the meanwhile, please do send in your questions. We are looking at, we're going to be very happy to take them live as we go ahead. Well, one, what of course the PM designate and Amit Shah would want to do is to bring in a nice mix, an eclectic mix of both veterans, of seasoned faces, of people who have administrative experience, governance experience, as well as bring in some fresh faces, bring in a bit of youthful energy into the cabinet as well. The last time there were controversies when they brought in relatively younger people, relatively inexperienced people. For instance, Smriti Irani's induction into the cabinet, into the very plump portfolio of Human Resources Development Ministry, came under a lot of criticism after she got embroiled in controversies, and then she was shunted out twice from key ministries, once from HRD and once from INB. So hence, this is really something that the party will have to be careful about. This term, the party needs to focus more on delivering, and for that it is important that it really brings in people who not only have good administrative experience but who are able to handle difficult portfolios well as well. The second thing that of course the party needs to do is be able to balance the aspirations of its allies. We know that it has come back with a huge mandate. 303 seats is really a very, very impressive mandate. However, it would not want to seem arrogant, and there are state elections, there are assembly elections that would happen over the next 5 years, and hence the BJP would want to accommodate its allies. Last time, of course, we know some allies like Harsimrat Kaur from the SAD was in the cabinet, and we hear she will be in the cabinet again, as was Ramvilas Paswan, and indications are that he would come into the cabinet as well. And third, of course, regional balancing is important, and that's something that will be taken care of. There are regions which have done well for the party in these elections, and they will have to be given adequate representation. So all in all, it's been a tough call for the BJP, for the top leadership of the BJP. There have been hectic parleys. Phone calls today have already gone to those who are likely to get portfolios. Well, of course, the big question mark is on whether party president Amit Shah will finally enter the government. We know he made his electoral debut this year nationally when he fought and won the Lok Sabha election from Gandhinagar. Now, if he comes into the government, then he would have to give up his post as party president, which anyway, his term is due to end soon. Hence, this is something that remains to be seen, and if he does come in the top four, then whether he would get home or finance, these are the two buzz. This is the buzz is around these two ministries, and what happens there is something we will know in a few hours. But I've started getting some questions, so let me begin by taking them one by one. Which cabinet is the one that the PM focuses on the most? Well, really, I think home is always a very, very important portfolio, because it really, the length and breadth of what it encompasses is extremely crucial. What is important for home is that it has to be someone not just who's good in terms of organization, or who's good in terms of administrative experience, or who has a good grasp, a good understanding of various issues, but also who's able to deal with other political players and political rivals in a way that there is minimum conflict. Home is a very important ministry because you have to deal with states, you have to deal with various other political stakeholders, states where your party may not be in power, and it requires someone, in Rajnath Singh that way was well suited for the position. He is a seasoned politician. So home is an important portfolio, and of course finance always is an important portfolio. The budget really is so important for the party. and for the government and for the party, and which is why finance is going to be another critical portfolio. Also in finance, the same logic applies. Has to be someone who can take everybody along. You need to be in touch with other political players, with other state governments, and again has to be a leader who has that ability to be able to reach out to everybody. It's hard for intelligent people to support a party which believes in imaginary things. Well, really, this is a very ambiguous question, but you know that the party has got the mandate of people. It's come back with 303 seats. So clearly, there has been a lot of faith that has been instilled in the party. Now, it is for Narendra Modi to deliver and to be able to come up with a cabinet that can, or come up with a council of ministers that can take care of the crucial portfolios and is able to deliver on each of the promises that he has made. Will Sushma Swaraj retain her position? Again, difficult to say. From what sources tell us, she has got a call, but it's not easy to say because her health, she didn't, let's remember, she contest this Lok Sabha polls, she voluntarily opted out, and her health hasn't been in the best of conditions. So whether or not she continues with MEA again is a big question. Again, as I said, just a few hours. Of course, once the swearing in is happening, we'll only know who's in the Council of Ministers. We won't know the portfolios. That's going to come a little later. Sudeep wants to know, could NDA government consider co-opting Dr. Manmohan Singh or Yashwant Sinha as advisors to the finance minister? Well, I really don't think so, because both are political adversaries. Yashwant Sinha has had such a bitter fallout with Narendra Modi and with this leadership of the BJP. It's been such a bitter and brazen fallout that it's really difficult for him to come back and to be co-opted in any form. And of course, Dr. Manmohan Singh is very, very senior. He's been a two-time Prime Minister of the country, but he's again a political adversary. So you know what you're saying, maybe I really don't see that likely possibility at all. Ketan Tiwari wants to know, is Piyush Goyal a better choice of finance in such desperate times? You know, the advantage that Piyush Goyal has over the others as far as finance is concerned is that he's handled it in Jaitley's absence in the last few years. In fact, he presented the last budget, which is often the most crucial budget of this government. So his stock in the last 5 years in this government has only risen. He's had issues in terms of complaints from bureaucrats about how he deals with them, etc., etc. But his understanding of finance has always been appreciated. His hard work has been appreciated, and as I said, he already has experience of handling the ministry because he's done that in the crucial phases when former finance minister Arun Jaitley was not there because of health issues. Anand Vardhan wants to know, Home Minister Amit Shah and Finance Minister Piyush Goyal, what are your views? I think the trends add up to this, don't you? I think we've already taken that question in many ways. As I said, Amit Shah, if he does come into the cabinet, he will be in the top four. Home and finance are the two ministries which are being talked about. Piyush Goyal, as I said, has already had experience of the finance ministry. So that gives him a bit of an edge, I would think, in terms of the others as far as the finance ministry is concerned. But this is a disclaimer, and this is something that I say repeatedly. What Narendra Modi and Amit Shah are thinking is something that only they know, and anything else that we do is mere speculation. We are only second guessing at this point. If Babul Supriyo gets a call to be present at the ceremony, what kind of a role he will fit in? Well, I would assume that Babul Supriyo can be given some, either a Minister of State or MOS with independent charge. Look, why Babul Supriyo is also important is because West Bengal is a state where the BJP has done exceedingly well. It's a state that has delivered for the BJP. The BJP had 2 seats there in the 2014 elections, which have gone up to 18 seats now. That's no mean feat. In fact, it has rattled West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee to a significant extent, and the BJP is very clear that just these Lok Sabha elections were not the target. The target is also the 2021 Assembly elections. So to that effect, it will want to give a healthy representation to West Bengal. Babul Supriyo was an MP the last time as well. He's retained his seat. So hence, he could be a likely choice as a Minister of State, perhaps even with independent charge. Do you think the individual ministries under Modi lack freedom and sovereignty? You know, this is a tough question, but yes, we do know that in the first innings of Prime Minister Modi, there was talk about how Narendra Modi as Prime Minister would interact with secretaries and other top bureaucrats and officials of ministries directly, bypassing the ministers. But my sense is that it also depends on the ministry concerned, or the minister concerned for that matter. So this is not something that was necessarily happening as far as maybe the Home Ministry was concerned, or the Finance Ministry was concerned, or even Nitin Gadkari's ministries were concerned, because these are all seasoned hands. These are all people who know how to handle their ministries. But it was happening in several other ministries a ministry like rural development, for instance, where the prime minister had a lot of stake in terms of the schemes he'd introduced, which electorally also have benefited the party greatly. The prime minister was in direct touch with senior officials. We know that for a fact. When it came to something like Aadhaar, again, the prime minister was in touch with senior officials of UIDAI. So it really depended on the ministry, the minister concerned, and how important the issue was to Narendra Modi's scheme of things. Subramaniam Swamy can be finance minister. Any possibility? Really, I don't think so. I don't think that is a possibility at all. So, yeah, I think I would leave it at that. What is the possibility of non-political technocrats coming in, especially in ministries like agriculture? You know, this is an interesting question, and this is something that was expected in the first term of this government when Narendra Modi was sworn in 2014. A lot of people had thought that technocrats and people, there would be lateral entrants, there would be people from outside who would be brought in, but that did not happen at all. In fact, there was no talk around it whatsoever. So at this point, it looks unlikely that it would happen. But if the government were to address its talent deficit or its lack of a solid, strong bench, then the only way it can do is to bring in some talent from outside, to bring in, as you mentioned, some technocrats, some academics. But you know, that has a bit of a political, it becomes a little bit of a difficult political issue, because there are many interests to balance. I mean, don't forget, there are many people who won elections, who fought hard and who've come here. There are many allies who've worked hard and who've got the NDA, the necessary numbers. There are state leaders who worked hard. So it's very difficult to disappoint anybody politically by bringing people from outside. It's often a very thin line, and it's not a line that is easy to cross. This is not something that even the UPA was able to do. I mean, it did bring in Nandan Nilekani, but they brought him in a special position, in a newly created position as UIDAI CEO, as UIDAI chairperson, but they did not bring him in as in the cabinet in, you know, the traditional sense of the term. So this is something that governments often grapple with, and clearly this is going to be an issue even with this government, and I don't see the possibility of something like that happening just as yet. Who will get defense ministry? Again, as I said, speculative. You know, I've clearly mentioned that the only two people who know what's going to happen will make it clear in a few hours. But the probables, again, defense ministry, it's possible that some of the people who were in the top four would be moved around a little bit. So if that happens, then Rajnath Singh could be a possible candidate for defense. There are talks of others as well. So it's really, Nirmala Sitharaman, of course, we know, is the one who held the defense ministry in the outgoing government. In fact, last time there were many defense ministers. So this is the portfolio the government will need to choose carefully. Most importantly, because national security was its main plank ahead of the election. So it needs to be careful about the minister it chooses. It needs to send the right message through the defense minister it chooses. Well, I'll take the last question because we are running out of time. Will Arun Jaitley find the power dynamics more or less the same when he comes back after recuperating? You know, I think Mr. Jaitley has made it fairly clear that he does not want any active role in the government. So I'm not sure that he's going to come back to any specific portfolio or any specific ministry. I don't think that's going to happen. So I mean, I don't see that as a possibility at all.